2 months ago, Flashforge sent me their new Adventurer 5M Pro, and I'm pretty impressed. Now, I've had a lot of experience with 3D printing over the years. I used to work at Apple in California doing rapid prototyping, and we had a Stratasys Dimension Elite that was basically useless. And we ended up, at the time, noticing that Flashforge, I think it was the Creator Pro that they saw at the time, we just got a bunch of those and had rows of them. Worked great. Nowadays, though, 3D printers have come a long way. And my Anycubic Cobra Max and my Tina 2 printers have really been overshadowed by this new era of printers, such as the Bamboo Lab. And whenever I saw that Flashforge has their own response to that, well, I was pretty interested. I recently had a chance to use a Bamboo Lab P1S quite a bit at my brother-in-law's house, and he has a thing pretty dialed in. I think it pretty much came from the factory pretty dialed in. There's very little issues with it, and pretty good deal for $600. But if you can go better, $600 is still quite a bit of money, at least for me. I only live on like $10,000 a year. And I believe this thing can go for like a third less than the Bamboo Lab P1S. And I would say that it actually has some good trade-offs. You know, costing less money, that's pretty good, because I usually want my 3D printers to pay for themselves doing local 3D prints for people, and I also don't want to charge too much. And so paying off a $600 3D printer, or having it pay for itself, takes a bit of time. Having a $450 3D printer pay for itself, well, that's a little bit easier. And this also has a really good feature that I like, which is an internal HEPA filter that keeps the fumes in. We have currently mostly just open 3D printers in our apartment, and that means we can't do PETG, because poor Thais gets a headache anytime I print with PETG. And plus, it's a bit of a worry having those fumes, because you wouldn't naturally want to put Tupperware in your oven when it's on, and yet we 3D print with a lot of plastics and smell that smell in quite a bit. It's fine for a shop, but not so good for an apartment. And I think there was a YouTuber, I think his name's Nathan Builds Robots or something like that. He made some pretty good videos recently, which I enjoyed. So yeah, this is a pretty good feature. Some of the things against this is that loading the filament is a little bit weird. It doesn't eject it. You just have to snip it off and feed the new one in, and just feed it all the way through. I get that they were trying to make it to where you never pulled the filament out, but even talking to the representative at Flashforge, they were like, yeah, that was a bit of an odd choice. We're not going to be doing that ever again, which I can't really blame them. I've already, again, that's one of those things where for such a big cost reduction, it's easy for me to just learn, okay, I just snip the filament and then feed the new one in, just get rid of all of that instead of pulling it all the way out. That works. That's something I can get along with. Another thing is that the default speeds are a little bit too fast, and so sometimes it can have some oscillations. Here's an example. That's actually a pretty bad example, to be honest, or pretty grotesque, because it even left little bits of filings on the inside the chamber. And just slowing it down a little bit will get rid of that. And those oscillations won't build up. So I think that has to do with just running it a little bit too fast and the frame not being rigid enough. But I still want to test it a little bit further. I've only had a little bit of time to test it because across the past 2 months of me testing this, I've been honestly really busy with mortar work. I've been working on a scissor lift. I've been doing all this manual labor shit. It sucks. And so I only have like a little bit to work on this. I didn't have enough time to play with the new slicer. I'd never played with Prusa Slicer before. And for this one, I believe it's Orca Slicer. And just yesterday, I was watching a video And I saw that apparently it has all these features for calibration prints, so you can calibrate your flow rates and stuff. I had no idea. I was doing that by hand. I was running in here, setting another print, slicing it, and then going back out to do more mortar work, and, well, whatever. So this video is just mostly going to be me telling you what I've learned, and then I'll show you the clips I shot. But I'm just going to fully refilm this video in a few weeks, and then I'll have a much better whole video of this, because I also want to research the oscillation issue, because I think I can test it with printing like a donut, because it seems to have it mostly on curved surfaces. Now, as for speed, prints pretty fast. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Even compared to the Bamboo Lab, well, for like $150 or $200 savings, not so bad. I'd take that little bit of a speed lowering. I've mostly been printing PETG. Prints great. Some of the parts I've been printing, pretty tough. And in the video I filmed that actually follows this intro clip, I tried making a water pump, and I do like the clarity of it. Now, my friend who owns this office, he tried to print some rocket parts, but it started giving some pretty bad stringing. I think that I might want to look into that as well. Although he's had issues with those prints, because they're very, like, some of these prints are very hollow and very thin. Very high fineness, I guess you could call it. So he's definitely pushing his printers to have a very light and strong design. But overall, I'm really happy with this printer. I know some YouTubers were pretty harsh on it because it doesn't have, what's it, Clipper? So you can't, like, get all the advanced features for it. I don't care about advanced features. I'm fine with just slicing it and throwing it on there. I don't need to have all these weird things about it. Now, one thing I haven't shown in the video is there's actually a built-in webcam. I think that the file... Oh, interesting. Oh, there's no... I didn't have the feature save. I didn't have the feature on to save time lapses of the prints. So all this time I could have time lapses. But whenever I get this to my apartment, I can have it on the network, and then I can actually see the printer, and that'd be pretty cool. That's a shame. I should have turned on the take video feature. Oh well. Well, here is the video that I filmed over the 2 months of me honestly being distracted. It's my main job. Distracted with doing mortar work and trying to fix these buildings, doing all the maintenance and stuff like that. But I feel like it ended up with a pretty jumbled up video. I wanted to put more time into this, so a lot of this footage is going to be trashed after this point, and I'm only going to be pulling a little bit here and there for the other video if I need examples. And I'm hoping to cover the rippling issue. I wish I could find a way to tell how is it oscillating. I almost need like a high-speed camera or something like that. But maybe putting microphones on it would be pretty good. Although, to be honest, just going into the speed settings of the print and going a bit lower on the print speed fixes the issue. So I think, honestly, that's probably just good enough. Going a little bit hotter with the hot end might be good too, though. And then maybe I'll try to print some structural pieces, like this piece to a model rocket launch mount. Well, here's the video, and a better one will be coming in the future, but I was really busy with work, so forgive me. So this is a toy that I made inspired by the Tally-Ho boat restoration. It's a little mechanical, I guess you'd call it, two differently sized gears with cams that kind of fight each other. And now I designed this about 2 years ago with the hopes of making something that doesn't use any screws. It does use glue, but it uses these little tiny pegs. And it uses almost no plastic to print this. So I could make this and sell it for like $3. Now the thing I've been doing though is I keep trying to make different versions that have all sorts of like hand cranks and different power options. The first one was going to be a window display, but turns out those little gear motors tend to fall apart over time. I've been wanting to get a piston powered water pump for quite a long time, and it turns out hardly anybody makes them anymore. Well, I decided maybe 3D printing could be a good option, and I had thought about asking an online 3D printing service to do it, such as PCBWay, but now that I have this 3D printer, I finally sat down yesterday and I spent like 5 or 6 hours just 3D modeling a water pump. It's going to be a lot of parts, but I'm actually really pleased with the design. It doesn't take any springs, it all uses a 3D print, and doesn't really need support. A little bit of support's good, like on the piston. Can't really get around that. And then also, because of a certain way that I designed the main cylinder, it would be best to have a little bit of support on it. But I am so excited to print with it. I actually brought some clear PETG that I've had a lot of issues with this. I've started to be able to get my big dumb printer to work okay with it, but I'm really curious to see how this will do it. And can we print glass? Not like actual glass, not like sodium borosilicate or whatever, but like, can we print the PETG so close together and without too many bubbles to where it looks almost transparent, because then we could see the fluids going through and the valves operating. Let's give it a shot. Well, that is funny. So I spent about 45 minutes just doing a few little fixes for this model and then adding this part so the motor wasn't so low, and that way previously the handle would have hit the base, so now it could be a hand crank. And then I was about a half hour into making the water pump 3D models whenever I thought, oh, I think I got this gear flipped around. So I made the fixed version where I flipped it around. Turns out I was right the first time. Okay, so I won't be releasing this because every time I look at it, I keep thinking of new ways to improve it anyway, so oh well. But I think what I want to do is I want to print these pieces, and I guess you could just consider it glass PETG plus. I'm actually going to split these pieces out though. I only want to print the end cap in clear. Now, since I only have the STL on hand, I've gone back in and I've selected them out. I'm going to be printing the other one for now because the previous one, the second layer, it has these pieces that are actually the valve holders, and so the plastic needs to be fairly bendable. I don't know if the clear PETG is going to be bendable enough for that. And plus, this is going to take so long that I have no idea how this is even going to print. Now the program I'm using is Orca Flashforge, which is based on, I believe, Prusa Slicer, and I also said, like, thanks to Bamboo Studio and stuff like that. And now Prusa, or Bamboo Lab, has actually put a whole page online about how to print transparent. And I believe that same information will carry over. This is the page which I will be referencing, printing tips for transparent PETG. Turn off the cooling fan. Increase flow ratio and nozzle printing temperature. Set the layer height to 0.1 millimeter. Set the number of wall loops to 1. Set the speed to 20 millimeters per second. And hopefully we can get that result on the cheaper machine. It took me a while to figure out how to change the settings, But it turns out it's actually up here, so I had to make a new filament material profile. And so here we have access to flow rates and things, and cooling and all sorts of stuff. So that's where you can adjust it. Well, it's only going to take 2.5 hours to print and 20 grams of filament. That's not bad at all. Now to remove the filament. See, this is what you want. That's what it wants you to do. I don't know why they would want you to never pull the filament out. Maybe that, I don't know. I'm going to ask them about that. So they want you to pull that out, cut it, pull this out of the tube, put the new filament in, replace the tube. It's got it now. Now it's starting to be clear. As we look at the excrement, I guess you'd call it. Oh, that's interesting. Why is that on there? Wait. Why is that? That's the gears. Is that because I was tracing this out? Oh, that is so strange. So this was, yeah, this was rubbing up against the glass. Because we've only done one print, really, it made that glare in the shape of the print. Well, that's weird. I mean, I don't really care for functionality, to be honest. Stay aligned? I don't really care for functionality, to be honest, but it's just interesting. Honestly, I wouldn't care if this thing was spray painted like a really tacky redneck camo on the side if it still works, but as long as we don't run into any of those weird issues again. Well, it's better than my other printer. The other one tends to fail right at the start. Doesn't even attach. But that seems pretty good. It's funny. I always forget how tiny these things that I design really are. I was worried that it was going to be too large, but, well, look at that. It's only that big. This is going to be the coolest little cute water pump you've ever 3D printed. Oh yeah, smell that PETG. Yeah, so it's this action right here that causes that wear on the lid. Put a little zip tie on there. So now it just barely clears the lid. You can see it with the reflection. Well, mostly anyway. Now I did make one change. I'm printing this at 0.25 of a millimeter, not 0.1. And I did not change the line width. I just did everything else. I've come in late to check on this print. About how I expected. You know, it's funny, I only just now realized McMaster-Carr's catalog 3D files for NPT fittings, they must not be in metric, because that should be about twice as wide for the threaded holes. So we'll have to reprint this anyway. I have adjusted the flow rate to 1.03, and then the quality, I have gone with the 0.1 and the 0.5 for all of these. So I'm curious how that'll do. It's going to take almost 2 days to do that. Never mind. So I'll go back to the 0.25. I drew custom supports on the bottom of that, and then I did go back to 1.25 millimeters, or sorry, I did go back to 0.25 millimeters, and it'll be 18 hours now. That's fine. But let's see how it starts. So I'm trying out a new test, and I'm going to try to print transparent plastic with this, and then we can estimate what the right, or we can find what the right settings are. Might have the flow rate up a little bit too much. I was having some pretty good luck with that, so I decided to cancel the print and up the flow rate a little bit more yet, and yeah, that looks pretty good. So now it's 1.05. I hope that'll help fill in those gaps. It's a little bit better. I took a little side tangent into printing transparent, trying to chase glass transparency with PETG, and that'll be its own video. Yeah. Whoa, that is heavy. Wow. I slowed down the print at this point, so it might be smoother here. Ooh. So on this print, I got this rippling. I didn't really know what that was. And then this started having that issue. But halfway through, I slowed the speed down to 50%. That did kind of get rid of it. So it's just going too fast. That's a shame. It can't really handle printing that fast. And I just realized now it is filled with these little bits of blue tough PLA. That's really unfortunate. Printing slower definitely gives better quality. So we're definitely going to have to, I'm going to have to report back to Flashforge on that. That is a big problem. Well, guys, that's pretty much it. So we're going to wrap up the video because I feel like now that I don't have that scissor lift work looming over me, I can put more time towards this. And now that I've had a taste of using this thing, I want it in our apartment. So I'm also going to think about ways to inspect the rippling issue, because I 3D printed that Makita battery flashlight using nickel cadmium batteries, and that rippling was really odd. It didn't happen at higher speeds. When I came in, it was I caught it in the act, and it was in the middle of its really horrid oscillations. And just lowering the speed, I went pretty far. I went to 50% speed. Got rid of that within a few layers. But I presume, and I'd like to test, going down to just 10% less speed. Would that do the same? Well, that's what I think I should do a whole other video. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and let me know if you're going to look at getting this printer too. Thank you very much for watching. See ya.